Morning, guys.
Good morning.
Okay.
Mr. Converse,
Yes,
did you get my disease
did.
project?
Grades in.
You did not?
I did. The grades already.
Oh,
You should be
no,
able to
like
see it.
I didn't see my grade. That's
It's
why I'm
on.
asking.
Check it. Check it. It's up.
I sent it to you last week on Thursday, but I don't know, like
Check.
somehow.
Check now. It's in. It's graded.
Okay.
Mhm. Okay.
Dr. Converse, I'm actually calling you Doctor. Mr. Converse, this Brittany G.
Yeah.
Did you grade my
I did.
disease project
Yep.
as well?
Grades are in. Grades are in.
Okay, I'm gonna check it. And I'm still can you relook at my exam one for me, because I just don't understand how I got that same grade. It's so odd to me.
I'll try and pull it up and send it to you.
Okay. Because I mean,
But you've got a right now in the course. Let's see.
excuse me.
See if your grade is currently.
Excuse me. So they had 6 of them. Where are they at?
Let's see here.
Excuse me. What are all the people at? This, what's this?
Yeah, you've got a solid middle B right now, Brittany.
Okay.
Right.
Mm-mm.
Can I see? Are you buying that for me?
Nope.
Why? I want
All right.
that's all I want this. No, not that one.
All right.
You want which one?
I want this tool right there.
Which one?
This one.
Okay.
Please.
So,
I'm in the microwave. That one.
in case you didn't
That's
get it.
that one. The microwave. I'm still trying to turn the phone. The next station. I know. Do you, Mommy? Oh. Mom, can you
No, stop touching stuff.
Mommy, this one, this way you just buy me. Look at the blue.
Let me see this.
I like this. It's a plastic.
See, look at you dropping my phone.
There you go.
Stop.
There we go. All right.
Oh, I was never on mute. Okay, so Mr. Converse.
Yeah.
What was I about to ask you? Are we taking the final exam right after this?
Yeah,
What time does it close?
it's gonna close tonight at 11 p.m.
Okay, so I got some time
Yeah,
to look at that.
yeah.
And is it similar to the study guide?
Yes, yeah. If you did the review, you should be in good shape.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Let's see everybody attended. All right. All right. Okay. And open up chat.
Hi, Mr. Converse. Good morning. This is
Morning.
Arian McGee.
Good morning.
Did you get my email?
I did. Your disease project is graded. Everything's graded except for the final exam, which you guys are going to do today. Okay. All right. Let's. Here we go. Just PDFs. Boom. All right. There we go. Okay. Mhm. 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 There we go. All right. So I emailed you the practice final and the practice final key. You've already gotten that. I emailed it last week, but I emailed it again. I've also put it up in chat. Okay. And I've also put up the final exam review in chat. And I also emailed that to you. Okay, so you should be able to get to all of that material. All right, so, and everybody's here. I've got y'all. Okay, so with that, we should begin. Okay, so there we are. Remember that the final exam is comprehensive, meaning it goes over everything that we've done since the beginning of the class, right? So you need to be aware of that. There we go, share that. All right. So we want to start with a discussion of nutrients, right? This is going all the way back to the beginning. And we were talking about the fact that there are 6 categories of nutrients, right? There's macronutrients, which you need in large amounts, and there's micronutrients, which you don't need in nearly as large of an amount, but they're still important because without them, you wouldn't be able to pull energy out of the food that you eat or get building blocks out of the nutrients that you eat, right? Remember, that's the reason that we eat, is to get building blocks and energy so that we can maintain the body. Some examples of macronutrients include carbohydrates, which are things like bread, pasta, and sweets. Okay. Fats include oils and butter, lard. Okay. Proteins includes meats, poultry, fish, soy, and some beans. Okay. And then with micronutrients, we have minerals like calcium, fluoride, iron, magnesium, sodium, potassium, vitamins, which can either be fat soluble, and those are vitamins A, D, E, and K, and water soluble, which are vitamin C and the B complex vitamins. Okay. And then water is a macronutrient. Without water, there's no life because water is a liquid and it allows for molecules and atoms to move around. And without movement, you can't have any chemical reactions, right? Water is also important because it's a big part of our secretions and our bodily fluids like sweat, urine, saliva, and breast milk and blood and interstitial fluid and the cytoplasm inside cells. Water is a big part of all of that. Okay. Water is also a universal solvent, which means that if a molecule is polar or charged, it'll dissolve in water. And if it dissolves in water, then it can participate in chemical reactions, right? The only exception to that are compounds that are non-polar, okay? And then water also helps us to maintain our body temperature, and it's a lubricant, okay? So a lot of important reasons why water is vital to life, right? In fact, we don't know of any life on this planet that can exist without any water. Okay, what do nutrients do, right? They can be a source of energy or heat, including carbohydrates, fats, and in a pinch, protein, okay? They support the growth and maintenance of tissue. Water, protein, fats, minerals, even carbohydrates all do that, okay? And they regulate processes in the body, and those include vitamins and minerals and proteins, especially in the form of enzymes or hormones, okay? And then we can add fiber to this as a way to regulate the action of the digestive system. Remember that fiber is a carbohydrate that we can't digest, okay? So it passes through the body without being broken down for energy, but it helps to make us more regular by allowing our stool to be more easily passed, okay? And it also slows the absorption of dietary carbohydrate in the small intestine, which is important again for the rate at which we take up and use sugar and the rate at which we produce a hormone called insulin. Okay? It's also a very good way to cut down on the amount of calories that you consume, is to increase the amount of fiber in your diet. Most of our fiber comes from plant sources, raw vegetables and raw fruits. Okay? And this is why one of the suggestions I've made throughout the course is if you want to lose weight and feel full, you want to increase the amount of protein and the amount of fiber in your diet. And that will make you feel fuller faster while reducing the number of calories that you eat. Okay. Then we talked about digestion, right? Which is the mechanical and the chemical breakdown of food in order to be able to load those building blocks and nutrients into our blood, right? If we can't do that, we don't get any benefit out of what we eat. It would just pass right through the body and out the other end. The digestive system is made up of the alimentary canal, which runs from the mouth to the anus, and it consists of the accessory glands, okay? You can see the alimentary canal here, right? Oral cavity, pharynx, esophagus, stomach, small and large intestine, right? And ending at the rectum and the anus, okay? And the accessory organs include the teeth, the tongue, the salivary glands, the liver, the gallbladder, the pancreas, okay? So the passage of food through this pipe is regulated by a process called peristalsis. That's the result of smooth muscle contraction that's produced by, among other things, the enteric nervous system, which is embedded in the walls of the digestive system. And that's regulated by the autonomic nervous system, which is part of the peripheral nervous system. Okay, and that's the part of the nervous system that controls our organ function without us having to think about it. Okay, remember that mechanical and chemical digestion depend on each other, because without one, the other doesn't work very well, right? Without mechanical digestion, chemical digestion is less effective. And without chemical digestion, mechanical digestion can't break down our nutrients to the point where we can absorb them into the bloodstream. So we need both in order to convert proteins into amino acids, to convert complex carbohydrates into simple sugars, and to convert fats into fatty acids and glycerol. And in that form, the amino acids and the simple sugars can get into the blood and from there go to the liver. And the fats can go from the digestive system in the small intestine to lacteals, which are part of the lymphatic system. And then from there, they rejoin the circulation at the thoracic duct, which empties into the subclavian vein, which is right under your collarbones. Okay? So let's take a look at the digestive system.
The primary functions of the digestive system are the breakdown of food, called digestion, and absorption of nutrients. Digestion begins in the mouth, where the teeth break food into smaller particles during mastication.
Mr. Converse, I'm sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah.
are you showing any slides or anything? Because I only see the people, like our classmates.
Oh, I put PowerPoint up. Let me,
Do you guys see the PowerPoint?
let me go to desktop. Here we go. Can you see now?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Can you see the desktop now? Can you see it?
No. I just see, okay, I got it.
You got it? Okay. The
Yeah, so are you on organs used in digestion?
yeah,
Okay.
and the notes are available in chat. Okay. So let's back up.
Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay.
The primary functions of the digestive system are the breakdown of food, called digestion, and absorption of nutrients. Digestion begins in the mouth, where the teeth break food into smaller particles during mastication. Salivary glands located near the oral cavity secrete saliva, which begins chemical digestion and keeps the food moist. As food is swallowed, the soft palate blocks the upper pharynx to prevent food from entering the nasal cavity, and multiple voluntary muscles in the face, neck, and tongue contract, pushing food particles through the pharynx. The food passes over the epiglottis, which prevents food entry into the respiratory system, and then into the esophagus, which connects the pharynx to the stomach. The one-way movement of the food mass, now called a bolus, is controlled by wave-like involuntary muscle contractions. This movement is known as peristalsis. The bolus now enters the stomach. Folds in the stomach wall, called rugae, allow for expansion as the stomach fills. Stomach cells secrete hydrochloric acid, pepsinogen, and various regulatory hormones that chemically digest the bolus. Muscular contractions in the stomach churn its contents to further break down the bolus and mix it with stomach secretions to form a thick liquid called chyme. Chyme exits the stomach through the pyloric sphincter and enters the small intestine, the major site of nutrient absorption. The small intestine consists of three parts: the duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. Bile from the liver and digestive enzymes from the pancreas empty into the duodenum to aid in digestion. Absorbed nutrients pass from the lumen of the small intestine into blood and lymph. Chyme not absorbed in the small intestine enters the large intestine. As it passes through the cecum and ascending, transverse, descending, and sigmoid colon, water and salts are absorbed and chyme is converted into feces. The rectum stores feces until nervous stimulation initiates the defecation reflex, resulting in elimination through the anal canal.
Organic compounds are based on carbon, and they make up most of what our body is built out of. And they always contain both carbon and hydrogen in them in order to be considered organic, okay? Carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide aren't considered to be organic compounds because they don't have any hydrogen in them, okay? Carbon is considered to be electroneutral, meaning that it shares electrons but doesn't gain or lose them, okay? So it likes to do what's called covalent bonding when it interacts with other non-metals, okay? It forms 4 covalent bonds with other elements, and it's unique to life as we know it. Carbon-containing compounds include carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. A lot of them are polymers, which are chains of similar units called monomers, building blocks, okay? If you think of just a chain, okay? The chain has links in it, right? The little links of the chain repeat and they connect to each other. And the same is true in a polymer. You have groups of atoms that are connected to themselves, and then those groups repeat over and over again and are connected to each other. They're synthesized by dehydration synthesis, where you remove a water molecule in order to create a new covalent bond. And they're broken down by hydrolysis reactions, where you use water to split a covalent bond. All carbohydrates are made of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. The main function of carbohydrates is to provide the body energy. The average minimum amount of carb needed to fuel the brain is 130 grams a day. Median carb intake is 296 among men aged 20 and older, and 256 grams a day among women in the same range. The acceptable macronutrient distribution range is between 45 to 65% of your calories, Okay. Carbs provide energy for cellular work. They regulate protein and fat metabolism. They're essential for normal cardiac and central nervous system function. And they're also a structural component of DNA and RNA and ATP. And they also serve to identify cells that belong in the body for the purposes of allowing the immune system to not attack them, right? So they're sort of like chemical ID tags, all right? Different types of carbohydrates are grouped according to their structure, right? Monosaccharides are simple carbohydrates, including glucose, fructose, and galactose. Disaccharides are simple carbohydrates that are two monosaccharides connected to each other, and those include sucrose, lactose, and maltose. And polysaccharides are three or more monosaccharides connected to each other, and those include starch, fiber, and glycogen. Okay. You can see an example of sources of different types of carbohydrates and what they do. Okay. This is from your textbook.
Hold on. Mr. Converse, I just got in. Sorry.
Okay. I got you. You're cool.
Okay.
Okay. Important to note that the liver changes fructose and galactose into glucose, which is then released in the blood. This raises your blood sugar levels, which causes the production of insulin from the pancreas. With insulin production, glucose is moved out of the blood and into the cells so that they can get energy from it. The exception is the nervous system. The nervous system doesn't need insulin for that to happen. Okay. The body digests 95% of starch within 1 to 4 hours after ingestion. Digestion occurs mainly in the small intestine using pancreatic amylase to reduce complex carbohydrates into disaccharides. Glycogen is stored carbohydrate energy found in the liver and muscle, and it's an important source of backup energy, but we only store limited amounts of it. Most of our energy storage in the body is in the form of adipose tissue, which we better know is fat. To maintain expected glucose levels between meals, glucose is released through the breakdown of liver glycogen, and that results from the production by the pancreas of a hormone that's called glucagon, which does the opposite of what insulin does. Glucagon raises blood sugar levels, so it's a hyperglycemic hormone, while insulin lowers blood sugar levels, and it's a hypoglycemic hormone. Digestible carbohydrates provide 4 calories per gram of energy, and that puts them in second place in terms of the amount of energy in a gram of a macronutrient, right? First place are fats, second place are carbohydrates, and third place is going to be protein, okay? Fiber is a carbohydrate that we can't break down. And the result of that is that we eat fiber, we don't get any calories out of it. So it passes all the way into our large intestine, where the bacteria that live there use that for their energy. And in turn, they provide for us vitamin K and B complex vitamins. And so we call that a symbiotic relationship, meaning that two organisms live together and each benefits from the association, okay? For us, fiber simply takes up space and makes us feel fuller faster, but it doesn't add to our calorie content. It's important for proper bowel elimination. It adds bulk to feces by attracting water, and it stimulates peristalsis and makes it easier for us to have a bowel movement. Studies show that fiber helps to lower cholesterol and reduce the incidence of intestinal cancer. Total fiber is recommended at 25 grams a day for women and 38 grams a day for men. Okay, men get more because men are bigger. Okay, lipids are the calorie champ in the macronutrient sweepstakes. There's more calories per gram in lipids than there are in carbs or in protein. And that's because they have more carbon hydrogen bonds than any of the other two macronutrients. Triglycerides are made of glycerol and 3 fatty acids connected to each other. Phospholipids are made of a triglyceride, which has had a fatty acid removed and a phosphate group attached in place of it, as well as a modified amine. And sterols are alcohols that have a fused ring system as the organic portion, and they are the building blocks of steroid hormones and cholesterol and bile salts. Okay. Triglycerides are further comprised of fatty acids, and these include saturated fatty acids, which are high calorie fatty acids without double bonds in the fatty acid tail of the molecule, and unsaturated fatty acids, which are lower calorie fatty acids with one or more double bonds in the fatty acid tail of the molecule. This is a look at triglycerides, right? Which contain carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, okay? But a lot more carbon and hydrogen than oxygen, and that's one of the reasons that they are fat soluble or non-polar, right? They don't dissolve well in water, so to move around in the body, in the blood, they have to be carried as lipoproteins or chylomicrons, which are little bubbles that are made up of triglycerides and cholesterol and protein. Okay. The main types of lipids: triglycerides, phospholipids, steroids, and eicosanoids. So let's take a listen to triglycerides.
Butter, lard, margarine, and salad oil are composed of lipids called fats. To make a fat molecule, 3 fatty acids bind to a molecule of glycerol. For this reason, fat molecules are technically called triglycerides. Fat molecules do not mix with water because they have 3 long hydrocarbon tails. Cells use fats for energy storage because the tails hold more potential energy than other biological molecules.
If you look at all the carbon-hydrogen bonds, you can see why the calorie content of a triglyceride is so high, okay? Every carbon-hydrogen bond represents a lot of energy for a living system, okay? And when you compare that to the number of carbon-hydrogen bonds in a carbohydrate or in a protein, this is way more, okay? Saturated fatty acids have single covalent bonds between their carbon atoms, which maximizes the number of carbon-hydrogen bonds and increases the calorie content. Examples include butter and lard, while unsaturated fatty acids have one or more double bonds between the carbon atoms. That reduces the number of hydrogen atoms in the molecule, reduces the number of carbon-hydrogen bonds, and reduces the calorie content. Examples include plant oils such as olive oil or corn oil or sunflower oil, and they're considered to be heart healthy because they don't contribute as effectively to the production of plaque, which can accumulate in the walls of arteries and increase our blood pressure and make us more likely to have a heart attack and stroke. Okay. Trans fats are modified oils. They are saturated fats and they have a high calorie content and they're used in a lot of snack foods, right? While omega-3 fatty acids you can get from things like fish, and they're considered to be heart healthy, okay? They have double bonds in them, and they're also considered essential fatty acids, which means we have to eat them in order to have them in the body. Sterols are found in the tissues of animals and aren't essential because the liver can make them from other molecules. If cholesterol is consumed in excess, it'll build up in the tissues, and that can contribute to a condition called atherosclerosis. Okay, in atherosclerosis, you get fatty plaques on the walls of your arteries. That makes the arteries stiffen and it makes them narrower, and that raises our blood pressure, and that puts us at greater risk for heart attack and stroke. Also, in areas where the plaque accumulates, the blood flow slows down, and when blood flow slows down, blood is more likely to clot. And those clots can travel and jam in capillary beds in the brain or in the heart or in the lungs, and can cause heart attack, stroke, and pulmonary embolism, okay, among other problems. You can see an example of a steroid here, okay? Notice again that there's a lot of carbon-hydrogen bonds in the molecule. Let's go laser pointer here. Every bend in this ring represents a CH2 group, okay, except where there's a double bond, and then it's just a CH group. And you can also see the other carbon-hydrogen bonds out on the branches as well. So if we were to count the number of carbons in this thing, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, right? 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27 carbon atoms, okay? How many hydrogens? Well, let's start here. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, sorry, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40 hydrogen atoms. It's a lot of carbon-hydrogen bonds, and that's also a lot of energy, and that's also a lot of calories, okay? So I just wanted to let you understand how to look at that diagram and understand what it's telling you, okay? The recommended daily amount for fats is approximately 20 to 35% of your total calories. 10% or less should come from saturated fat. Cholesterol should be limited to 200 to 300 milligrams a day. A diet that's high in fat is going to contribute to obesity, hypertension, cardiovascular disease, and type 2 diabetes. The exception is children under 2 who need a higher amount of fat because they're still building brain tissue, right? They still have to manufacture something called myelin so that they can finish the production of the nervous system. On the flip side, a diet with less than 10% fat can't supply adequate needs for body maintenance of essential fatty acids and results in a wasting state known as cachexia, where the person looks like skin and bones. Most lipid metabolism happens after fat gets to the small intestine. The gallbladder secretes bile, which acts as an emulsifier, so it's like a detergent. It breaks the fat into smaller particles, and at the same time, the pancreas makes pancreatic lipase, and that chemically breaks down the fat. Intestinal cells absorb the majority of the end products of digestion, with some ending up in the feces. Very low density lipoproteins carry triglycerides to the cells, while low density lipoproteins carry cholesterol to the cells, and high density lipoproteins remove cholesterol from the cells and take it to the liver, where it's going to be eliminated. Lipids provide 9 calories per gram of energy and are the densest form of stored energy. Okay. The intestinal cells that absorb the end products of digestion send them first to the lymphatic system, and from there they make it into the circulation, and from there they can get to the tissues. Proteins are the tools of life. They do all the things that we think of as living processes, and they're made of building blocks called amino acids. Proteins contain carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen, and sometimes we'll have sulfur and phosphorus atoms in them. There's 20 kinds of amino acids. Some are essential, which means you have to eat them in order to have them in your body, and some are non-essential, which means your body can make them from other things. Amino acids are joined together to make proteins by a type of covalent bond called a peptide bond. They all contain amino groups and carboxylic acid groups and can act either as an acid or a base, so they can serve the body as a buffer as well as a building block for a protein. And all are identical with the exception of a chemical group called the R group, which is attached to a carbon that's called the alpha carbon. Okay? Fibrous proteins are strand-like. They don't dissolve in water very well, and they tend to be rather stable. Most have tertiary and quaternary structure, which means they have a three-dimensional shape to them, and they provide mechanical support and strength. Examples include keratin, elastin, and collagen, which is the most abundant protein in the body. You find it in bone, you find it in the dermis of the skin, okay? You find it in ligaments and tendons, okay? Among other places. Contractile fibers are also important structural proteins. You find those in all the different muscle tissues, cardiac muscle and skeletal muscle and smooth muscle. Globular proteins are sort of spherical in shape. They dissolve in water. They respond to changes in temperature and pH and salt content. They have tertiary and quaternary structure, and they have areas on their surface that perform chemical reactions or that attach to other molecules, and these are called active sites. Examples include antibodies, hormones, molecular chaperones, and enzymes. Okay. In our diet, we have different qualities of protein, right? Complete protein comes from animal sources and soy and contains all of the essential amino acids. There's a total of 9. Incomplete protein come from plant sources. They contain all 9 essential amino acids. However, one or more of the amino acids isn't adequate for protein synthesis. So we have to mix and match when we have an all vegetable diet, all plant diet. Complementary proteins are food sources that are incomplete proteins eaten alone, but together make complete protein. It isn't necessary to consume complementary proteins at the same time. Instead, consuming different complementary proteins over the course of a day will work for you. Okay. What do proteins do? Well, they are involved in tissue building and maintenance. They balance nitrogen and water metabolism. They back up energy. They support metabolism. They control our nitrogen balance. They move nutrients around the body. They support the immune system. The 3 factors that influence the body's requirement for protein include our need for tissue growth, the quality of the dietary protein. Is it complete protein? Is it incomplete protein? And added needs as a result of sickness. The recommended daily allowance of protein is 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight for healthy adults. So if you weighed 100 kilograms, right, how many grams would you need? You would need 80, okay? Protein's acceptable macronutrient distribution range for adults is 10 to 35% of your total calories. Underconsumption leads to protein energy malnutrition. Kwashiorkor and marasmus are disorders that are caused by this type of malnutrition. These are serious disorders and are caused by either lack of protein in the diet or lack of ability to metabolize protein. Vegan diets can lack vitamin B12 because it doesn't naturally occur in plants, so you have to take it as a supplement. Protein provides 4 calories per gram of energy and puts it in last place in the energy sweepstakes, right? So it goes fats, carbohydrates, and then proteins. And that's why I told you, if you want to lose weight, you want to go high protein, high fiber, okay? And that will make you feel fuller faster and cut down your calorie consumption. This is an example of kwashiorkor. It's protein malnutrition. We see edema, particularly in the abdominal pelvic region, and an enlarged liver. See the edema here, okay? Fatty deposits are found in the liver. It's caused by sufficient calorie intake, but not enough protein, and that distinguishes it from marasmus, which is just overall wasting. Kwashiorkor cases occur in areas of famine or poor food supply. Cases in the developed world are rare, okay? And the number one problem we have in terms of diet in the developed world is obesity, right? So why does this child look this way? Well, there's a lack of protein metabolism, which means that in the blood, you don't have albumin as much, because the liver makes that from amino acids that you eat. And albumin helps the blood to hold on to its water supply. And so what happens without the albumin is that osmosis is going to cause the water to accumulate in the abdomen, because there's a lot of blood vessels surrounding the abdominal pelvic cavity. And then you see the muscle wasting here. In order for the protein needs of the body to be met, what's happening literally is that the body is digesting its own protein, okay? So it's just trying to recycle what you already have to keep you alive. The fix is to get protein in the diet, okay? All right, we already hit those. Okay, all right. Yeah, actually, it's not a bad idea. Let's take a break and let's come back, not at 11:40, but at 11:30. Okay, so let me bump out of this.
Mr. Converse, did you get me in there
I did.
for attendance?
Yep, gotcha.
Okay.
All right.
When you gonna put the test up, or did you do it already?
Oh yeah, it's already up.
Okay.
It's due tonight.
It's due tonight. What, midnight?
11.
Okay.
Mr. Converse, did you get Genesis McPherson for attendance too?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you get Nikita Gray?
I did.
Okay.
And Stephanie Beckham.
Okay. We had talked about My Plate, which is a program designed to provide portion control and variety in your diet for a normal, healthy diet. Okay. This was a government program that replaced the food pyramid and is based really on the surface area that different foods take up on your plate.
Hi, my name is Esty Asher, and I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist and health educator for BJC School Outreach and Youth Development. I travel to classrooms and talk to students about making healthy choices, specifically about nutrition and physical activity. Have you ever wished that you had a useful, easy-to-use tool to help you determine what foods to put on your plate? Well, in 2011, thanks to the United States Department of Agriculture, we do. In 2011, the USDA put out something called My Plate. My Plate is a visual tool that was created in order to help Americans choose healthy foods for their meals and snacks. My Plate came after My Pyramid, which had been around since 1992. Similar to My Pyramid, My Plate includes the different food groups that are essential at building a healthy, balanced diet. Also similar to My Pyramid, the different food groups that are in My Plate are represented by different colors. The different color scheme helps remind us the importance of building a healthy plate that's also colorful. The different colors not only make our foods more visually appealing, but they also correspond to different vitamins and minerals found in our food. So if you have a colorful plate, rest assured you will have a variety of vitamins and minerals as well. There are a few differences between My Pyramid and My Plate that I would like to point out. First, with My Plate, there are 5 food groups instead of 6. Fats and oils are no longer considered to be a food group. That's not because our body doesn't need them, but rather because it has been determined that as Americans, we eat more than enough of the fats and oils in our diet. They're naturally found in many foods, and oftentimes the cooking process that we use include fats and oils already. A second change that they made to My Plate was the group that was formerly called beans and meat is now called protein. And lastly, the milk group is now called dairy. So now what I want to do is talk about each of the different food groups, point out the primary function that they have on our body, and give a few examples of each of those food groups. It's really important for us to notice that each of the food groups does execute a different function in our bodies, so it's really important for us to include all of those food groups as a result. First, we have the fruit group. The fruit group contains vitamins, minerals, and fiber. Specifically, the fruit group helps with our immune system, so it helps our body fight disease, and it also helps maintain healthy skin. There's also fiber in our fruit group, which will help our digestive tract, so keep our digestion good and healthy, and it will also help with our heart, so our circulatory system. Examples I have here, we have an apple, we have some pineapple, we also have some grapefruit and raisins. Dried fruit like raisins are examples of fruit within the fruit group as well. Next, we have the vegetable group. The vegetable group, just like the fruit group, contains vitamins, minerals, and fiber. Specifically, the vegetable group helps with our vision, so it's really important that we want to get those vegetables in. Different vegetables that I have here are the squash, peppers, broccoli, and carrots. Next, we have the grains group. The grains group has fiber as well, but it is also really important for giving our bodies energy. That energy is not only helpful for us to move around and be physically active, but as I point out to my students, it really helps give energy to our brain as well. So it will help us focus better, think better,
You're welcome.
and study so that we can also have a better academic
How did you get that?
So
Did somebody
examples
give you
of
that?
grains are
Let's
some
ask.
pasta,
Because her little
we have some
fingers be
cereal,
sticky sometimes.
some rice,
Okay.
and some bread.
She'll ask and I'll say no, and then she'll be.
Next, we have the protein group. The protein group is really important for helping build our muscle tissue. All tissues in our bodies are helped by the protein group, but specifically we talk about muscle tissue with protein. Protein can be found in both animal and plant-based sources. Animal sources include meat, like in this burger, also some chicken or fish or eggs. Plant sources include nuts, like these almonds, peanut butter, seeds, and those are different plant sources of protein. So if somebody does not eat animal sources, they can meet their protein needs from plant sources exclusively. The last group that we have is the dairy group. The dairy group is made primarily of milk, yogurt, and cheese. If somebody chooses not to have cow's milk or products from animals, we can also use soy milk or almond milk. What makes the dairy group so important is the fact that there is calcium in the dairy group. While milk alternatives such as soy milk and almond milk don't naturally have calcium, the companies have added calcium to make sure that you can get the appropriate amount of calcium from these type of dairy milk products. So that is the last of the 5 food groups that are found on my plate. I hope the next time that you're choosing the foods on your plate, you think of my plate. For more information, visit choosemyplate.gov or bjcschooloutreach.org. Thank you. Hi, my name is Esty Asher, and I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist and health educator for BJC School Outreach and Youth Development. I travel to classrooms and talk to students about making healthy choices, specifically about nutrition and physical activity. Have you ever wished that you had a useful, easy-to-use tool to help you determine what foods to put on your plate? Well, in 2011, thanks to the United States Department of Agriculture, we do. In 2011, the USDA put out something called My Plate. My Plate is a visual tool that was created in order to help Americans choose healthy foods for their meals and snacks. My Plate came after My Pyramid, which had been around since 1992. Similar to My Pyramid, My Plate includes the different food groups that are essential at building a healthy, balanced diet. Also similar to My Pyramid, the different food groups that are in My Plate are represented by different colors. The different color scheme helps remind us the importance of building a healthy plate that's also colorful. The different colors not only make our foods.
Okay, and this is a bit on nutrition labels.
People ask me, hey health nerd, what's the best way to start improving my health? Is it through a calorie counting app, shopping at Whole Foods, maybe joining my local booty boot camp? Well, actually, esteemed reader, one of the best ways to improve your health quickly is by learning how to read nutrition labels. You may think these labels contain some complex science and mathematical equations, but they're really not that scary. Let's walk through how to properly read these things. The first thing you'll notice is at the top of the nutrition facts are the serving size and servings per container. This is simply the amount in the package or container. Pretty self-explanatory. Next, you have the ingredients. Everything inside these black lines is representative of one serving. This is important to understand because next you'll see the calories and the calories from fat. This is pretty much the only thing most people ever look at, and this is a common mistake. If the package says 200 calories on the bag of chips, but the servings per container say 2.5, that means there's actually 500 calories in the bag. This is a clever little marketing trick that you should be aware of. Pressing on, you will see the total fat on the package along with the number and percentage on the right-hand side. The number represents the total fat in one serving, and the percentage represents the percentage based on a 2,000 calorie diet. So 8 grams is 12% of a 2,000 calorie diet. I should also remind you that fat is not bad for you, and there are plenty of healthy foods that are high in fat. What you really want to watch out for is any trans fat. Trans fat is the kind linked to heart disease and all sorts of medical conditions. Avoid this at all costs. Saturated fat should be much less of a concern. This may surprise some of you, so I will link a few studies below that have conclusively proven that saturated fat is fine to eat and not the cause of many diseases it was wrongly accused for. Think of saturated fat as the middle child of the fat family. He's got a good heart, but he's just a little misunderstood. Now you may be thinking, wait a minute, why does the total number of saturated fat and trans fat not add up to the total fat on the top? Where's the other 7 grams? Well, this is because not all fats will be listed on the nutrition label. Only the nutrients deemed most important ever make it to the nutrition labels. Don't worry though, the other fats not listed are generally healthy and should be much less of a concern. Pressing on, you will see the cholesterol and sodium. Remember, these numbers are based on one serving. If the sodium was 25% of your daily intake and the package had 2.5 servings on it, that means the entire package contains 63% of your daily sodium intake. Quite a bit, considering this is one snack. Onward, you'll see the carbohydrates section. Carbohydrates are the breads, grains, fiber, and sugars in the food. The first section you'll see is for dietary fiber. Having a good amount of dietary fiber is a good thing as it helps with digestion and satisfaction from your meals. Now, the next section is what you really need to pay attention to. The total sugars in the food you're eating are important to watch out for as, like trans fat, they have been linked to a whole host of diseases and health problems. Also, you should be aware of not only the sugar in the food, but what kind of carbohydrates you're eating. If the food is very high in carbohydrates but low in dietary fiber, even though the carbs are not labeled as sugar, they will operate very similarly in your bloodstream. These are called simple carbs. This is why you need to watch out for unrefined carbohydrates like white bread and pastas. Next up, you'll see the label for protein. Knowing that foods high in protein lead to better satisfaction from your meals and promote lean muscle tissue, you will want most of the foods you eat to have a good amount of protein. Finally, we have a few key vitamins at the bottom. It may sound strange, but ignore these. These numbers will be notoriously low, and you should be focusing instead on getting lots of fruits and vegetables in every day to meet your vitamin requirements. Leafy greens contain calcium and iron, and fruits contain vitamin C and vitamin A. The rest of the nutrition label facts contain recommendations about how much in each category to get in. They do not change on the nutrition label and are not that important. Finally, on some labels, you will see the calories per gram for each macronutrient. Fat contains 9 grams per serving, and carbohydrates and proteins contain 4. So for every 10 grams of fat, you will have 90 calories. For every 10 grams of protein or carbohydrates, you will get 40 calories. Safe to say, you should now have a general understanding of how nutrition labels work. Most importantly, you can stop assuming something is healthy for you based on tricky packaging and start knowing the difference. Got a burning health question you need answered? Just put it in the comments section below. And rumor has it, for every new subscriber I get, a brand new Lamborghini will be placed outside your door. Yep, this is not a joke. Hit the subscribe button and a Lamborghini will appear. So please subscribe to The Health Nerd for weekly tips and tricks backed by science. You can also check out thehealthnerds.com for online health and fitness courses. They'll help you take your health to the next level. Cheers.
When we're looking at different body systems, we can look at our diet and see what's most likely to benefit them, right? For a healthy cardiovascular system, that is to avoid hypertension, to avoid arteriosclerosis, atherosclerosis, strain on the heart, such as congestive heart failure and cardiomyopathy. You want to cut your saturated fats to less than 7%. You want to have a lot of monounsaturated or polyunsaturated fats and soluble fiber, because that cuts calories, and that also reduces the amount of plaque deposition that's going to happen. And so we have something called DASH, which is an approach to slow hypertension that cuts sodium, has high potassium and high calcium, and the goal is to lower cholesterol and reduce the risk associated with hypertension, right? So down goes the cholesterol, down goes the sodium, down goes the blood pressure, right? For a healthy central nervous system, we want to have adequate B complex vitamins along with calcium, sodium, magnesium, and phosphorus. And for healthy bones, we want to have adequate servings of dairy, as well as active vitamin D and phosphorus as well, okay? And not to mention, it's also going to require protein, right? Because there's collagen that makes up the structure of bone as well, okay? All of these benefit from protein in your diet. Good bowel function, adequate fluid intake and fiber for women, 25 grams a day, for men, 38, and a minimum serving of fruits, vegetables, and whole grains. To prevent cancer, maintain a healthy weight, increase plant-based fiber food, limit sodium, limit saturated fat, and limit alcohol and increase physical activity. Okay. Therapeutic nutrition for cardiovascular disease. You can check the link out here for the TLC diet. High fiber, increased exercise, weight management, and stopping tobacco and alcohol use. Daily intake of cholesterol should be less than 200 milligrams a day. Saturated fat, limit to 70% of your total calories. Trim fat, remove skin, broil, bake, and grill instead of fry. Use plant spices and low-fat dairy products. Use plant-based oils because, again, they have fewer calories. Increase the amount of fish that you use in your diet. And that, again, reduces calories and also gives you essential fatty acids. Encourage family participation and get outside social support in order, again, to reduce the load on the heart and to maintain a healthy cardiovascular system. Metabolic syndrome is characterized by the presence of abdominal obesity, particularly in men, greater than 40 inches in men or 35 inches in women. The triglyceride value is equal or greater than 150 milligram per deciliter. There's low HDL, so this would be a value greater than or equal to 60 is healthy HDL. In men, if it's less than 40 or women less than 50, then your high density lipoproteins are too low, okay? You're going to see hypertension, and you're going to see a fasting blood sugar greater than or equal to 100 milligram per deciliter, okay? And so that puts you in the pre-diabetes range, okay? And the risk is that you could slide into type 2 diabetes. Hypertension is a risk factor for developing coronary heart disease or myocardial infarction or a stroke. A blood pressure greater than or equal to 140/90 under the age of 60, and a blood pressure greater or equal to 150/90 over the age of 60. Yeah, so under the age of 60, greater than 140, over the age of 60, greater than 150 over 90. Your blood pressure naturally rises as you get older because your arteries stiffen. And even if you don't eat an unhealthy diet, you will begin to accumulate plaque, okay? And that's going to push your blood pressure higher. What are the risk factors here? Family history, smoking, obesity, sedentary lifestyle, hyperlipidemia, high sodium intake, low potassium intake, too much alcohol consumption, stress, and aging. African Americans are high incidence. Women's risk increases after menopause, and that's because of the drop in estrogen, okay? And then we talked about the DASH approach, right? Proven to lower blood pressure and cholesterol, drop sodium intake to 2.3 grams a day and gradually decrease to 1.5 grams for maximum benefit. Reduce the intake of pretzels, canned soup, and processed foods because they're high in sodium. Add low-fat dairy to promote calcium intake. Include fruits and vegetables that are high in potassium, okay? Limit your alcohol, limit smoking, encourage the client to read labels and educate for appropriate food choices. Lifestyle changes, more exercise, more weight loss, stopping smoking, okay? And reducing alcohol consumption. Heart failure is the inability of the heart to maintain blood flow in the body. It can be caused by excess sodium, fluid retention, and is characterized by edema. Risk factors include coronary heart disease, hypertension, diabetes, previous heart attacks, arrhythmias, valve disorders, obesity, and metabolic syndrome. What do we want to do? Reduce sodium to 2 grams a day or less. Whole milk limited or replaced by low sodium milk. Content in water for sodium should be checked. Selected vegetables are permitted. Processed foods and condiments, probably want to eliminate them. Sodium labeling per serving, some guidelines. Sodium free is less than 5 milligrams, very low sodium less than 35, and low sodium less than 140. Monitor fluid intake and restrict to 2 liters a day. You might wonder why you want to do that. You don't want to retain too much fluid, right? Because again, that's going to put extra strain on the heart and that's going to push your blood pressure higher. Increase protein intake to over 1 gram per kilogram body weight a day. Have small frequent meals with soft, easy to chew foods. A myocardial infarction happens when there's inadequate blood supply to the myocardium, causing heart muscle tissue to die. After this occurs, it's important to reduce the myocardial oxygen demands related to metabolic activity. So for nutrition, a liquid diet after the first 24 hours, no caffeine because that's a stimulant, small frequent meals, and then talk about the DASH diet, okay? Okay, diabetes mellitus and diabetes insipidus are disorders in which excessive urination takes place for different reasons, okay? In diabetes mellitus, it's the result of too much sugar in the urine. And in diabetes insipidus, it's the result of a lack of antidiuretic hormone. Diabetes mellitus inhibits the body's production and use of insulin and results in greater than normal sugar levels in the blood. Glucose levels are used to diagnose diabetes. If you have a resting blood sugar of over 200 milligram per deciliter or a fasting blood sugar on multiple occasions of greater than 100 to 126 milligram per deciliter, then we're in the pre-diabetes diabetes range. Pre-diabetes is 140 to 199 milligram per deciliter. Another measure, and one that's more commonly used in clinical settings, is your A1C level, okay? An A1C level of around 6.5 is pre-diabetes. If you're 7 or over, you're diabetic, okay? A1C is a measurement of the hemoglobin protein that has a sugar attached to it, okay? The alpha chain, all right? That's what it literally means. Glucose is the primary source of energy, and insulin is needed to break down glucose into a form that can be used for energy in the body. The goal of diabetes mellitus management is to help you make healthy lifestyle and nutritional choices to control your blood glucose. And that's how we have to approach type 2 diabetes, right? Unsuccessful management of blood glucose can cause heart disease, blindness, kidney failure, disorientation, and decreased function of the nervous system, as well as the loss of fingers, toes, limbs, right, due to loss of circulation, death of nerves, and the setting in of necrosis, okay? Type 1 diabetes is a condition in which the immune system attacks and destroys the beta islet cells of the pancreas, and so you have no normal source of insulin. And the fix for that is to take insulin through a needle or as an inhalant, okay? This can happen at any age, but it often occurs in adults under 30 who have an ideal body weight. Type 2 diabetes is different. In type 2 diabetes, you develop resistance to your own insulin because your diet up to that point was causing insulin production to stay high all the time. And after a while, you became resistant to its effects, okay? So what are the risk factors? Your diet is a major risk factor, right? If it's high in calories, then you're heading towards diabetes, especially if you don't have adequate exercise to burn off the extra calories, okay? Hypertension, hyperlipidemia, obesity, and sedentary lifestyle are associated with this condition. So what do we do to reverse it? We change your diet and exercise routine, and we can also give you drugs that make you more sensitive to your own insulin, okay? In gestational diabetes, what happens is that the mother's placenta soaks up her insulin and the insulin never gets to its target, right? This happens during pregnancy and usually resolves after the baby's born. We see increased insulin resistance caused by placental hormone secretion and increased insulin antagonists. And so what we do is we give insulin during the pregnancy. The risk is that mother and or child can develop type 2 diabetes later in life, okay? So blood glucose control is critical in gestational diabetes to prevent damage to the fetus. Risks include preeclampsia, C-section, large newborn birth weight, infant hyperglycemia, infant death, and maternal hypertension and diabetes following pregnancy. So let's take a look at diabetes.
Diabetes mellitus is a complex disorder of metabolism. It is a disease in which the body does not produce or properly use insulin. Insulin is a hormone that is needed to convert sugar, starches, and other food into energy needed for daily life. There are two types of diabetes that affect the elderly. Type 1 diabetes, also known as insulin-dependent diabetes mellitus, IDDM, or juvenile onset diabetes, results from the body's failure to produce insulin. An individual with type 1 diabetes needs to take daily insulin injections for the rest of their lives. It is estimated that 850,000 to 1.5 million Americans have type 1 diabetes. Non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus, or adult onset diabetes, results from insulin resistance combined with relative insulin deficiency. Approximately 16 million Americans have type 2 diabetes. Someone with type 2 diabetes might make healthy or even high levels of insulin, but obesity makes the body resistant to its effect. Exercising 30 minutes a day and maintaining proper body weight for age and body type can help prevent type 2 diabetes. Prediabetes occurs when a person's blood glucose levels are higher than normal, but not high enough for a diagnosis of type 2 diabetes. Without lifestyle changes, most people who have prediabetes will progress to type 2 diabetes within 10 years. The diagnosis of DM can shorten the average lifespan by up to 15 years. By 2025, over 20 million Americans are expected to have diabetes. Diabetes mellitus.
And here's diabetes insipidus. Oh, come on. All right, hold on.
Good morning, everybody. Today I'm going to do a quick YouTube video on diabetes insipidus, and I'm so excited because I'm back to tutoring you guys on YouTube. YouTube videos are really fun, and it's a break from Skyping or FaceTiming or everything else that I do. So diabetes insipidus, if you brought the REMAR review package, this is in your homework book, okay? And it is on page 13. So if you have your homework book, get it out, and you can do it with me, and you don't have to do it for homework on your own. Now, I've noticed a huge trend when it comes to diabetes insipidus, and you are preparing for NCLEX. And the trend is that you don't know it. You don't know what it is, you don't know what it means. So that's the problem. So I'm going to tell you, okay? And what's really great about knowing your medical terminology is just sometimes you can learn a lot just by looking at the name, okay? So, for instance, diabetes. When you guys see diabetes, what do you think of? Most of you are going to say, when I see diabetes, I think of hyperglycemia or high blood sugar. And that is absolutely wrong, okay? And that's a problem that was not corrected in nursing school. Diabetes, the term diabetes has nothing to do with high blood sugar. Okay? Diabetes actually means someone who is putting out a lot of urine. Okay? So diabetes is a patient who's putting out a lot of urine. The word after diabetes typically will describe what that urine looks like. So you guys are familiar with diabetes mellitus. Okay, so diabetes means somebody that's putting out a lot of urine, and mellitus means that that urine tastes sweet. Remember back in the day, they used to taste the urine to see if you had a problem with your blood sugar being too high. Okay? So when you think about diabetes insipidus, if you're thinking, oh, this patient has high blood sugar, you're completely wrong. Okay? Diabetes means the patient's putting out a lot of urine. Insipidus will describe what that urine looks like. So insipidus is a term that means colorless, odorless, and tasteless. All right? So that's what your patient is going to be presenting clinically. Now, when a patient has diabetes insipidus, they have too little of the antidiuretic hormone. And basically, the antidiuretic hormone tells your body how much urine to put out or how much to hold on to. Okay? Yeah. Simple. So your patient has too little of this antidiuretic hormone. What you're going to see is somebody putting out a whole bunch of urine. Okay? Because nothing's telling the body to reabsorb water. Okay? So patient with diabetes insipidus signs would be patient is putting out anywhere from 4 to 20 liters of urine a day. And if you think about 20 liters of urine, that is a lot of urine for somebody to be putting out, right? So your patient is going to essentially become severely dehydrated. So it's important to know the signs of dehydration, which are extreme thirst, dry mucous membranes, poor skin turgor. All right. Your patient will also have postural hypotension and tachycardia. All right. Now, for NCLEX, you got to know how to treat diabetes insipidus. All right. And the first thing you need to know is find out what's causing diabetes insipidus, because you just don't wake up with diabetes insipidus. There's a reason why you have it. Okay. And sometimes it's some trauma to the brain. Patient may have had a stroke, some tumors near the pituitary gland. All those things could be causing diabetes insipidus. So you want to find the cause and treat the cause. Now, you can also give a medication that will act like the antidiuretic hormone and tell the body to stop putting out all this urine, okay? And that's going to be like a pressing drug, like vasopressin, okay? You hear that garbage, man? It's early in the morning, so sorry. So that's diabetes insipidus. You know the signs, and you know the treatment. See you later.
So, general nutritional diet guidelines for controlling diabetes mellitus: high fiber, low saturated and trans fat, and low cholesterol diet. Dietary intake is individualized. Food intake and weight management are critical. And we need to look at lipid and glucose patterns in the blood and in the diet as well. For carbs, we want to encourage quality carbs or complex carbohydrates. We want to limit refined grains and sugars. An easy way to do that is to avoid anything that looks white, right? Like pasta or white bread, okay, or white flour. Carbohydrates should include a minimum of 130 grams per day for healthy brain function. Carbohydrates should be 45 to 65% of your total calorie intake, okay? For fats, saturated fat less than 7% of your total calories, trans fat less than 1%. Limit fried food and baked goods. Why? They're high in saturated fat. Cholesterol is restricted to 200 to 300 milligrams a day. 2 or more servings per week of polyunsaturated fatty acids from fish, corn, wheat germ, soybeans, other plant sources. Increase the intake of oats, whole grains, fiber, okay? And this can improve metabolism and lower cholesterol. And recommendation of for consumption of fiber a day is at least 14 grams of fiber per 1,000 calories per kilocalorie, okay? Proteins should be made 15 to 20% total calorie intake. Meat, egg, fish, nuts, beans, and soy products. Reduce the protein if the clients have kidney failure. We're going to get into that in just a second. Eliminate tobacco. Reduce alcohol consumption. Supplements for identified deficiencies. Artificial sweeteners are okay. Cultural and personal preferences come into play here as well, all right? The American Diabetes Association and Dietetic Association has nutritional requirements based on the needs of the client that you can refer to. The dietitian works and instructs the client on dietary methods, and the maintenance of blood sugar is critical. Okay, and then we talked about the urinary system, and we talked about the job of the kidney, right? The job of the kidney is to maintain fluid and electrolyte balance and to eliminate nitrogenous waste products and toxins from the body by putting them in your pee so you can pee them out, okay? It also is important in controlling your hematocrit through the production of erythropoietin, and it also plays a role in vitamin D production, okay? So those are all important roles for the kidney. If you lose one kidney, you can still manage to live a long and healthy life. If both your kidneys shut down and we don't do anything about it, you have about 2 days to live. And that's because the nitrogenous waste will build up in your blood and your tissue fluid to a point where it becomes toxic to your cells and tissues, and you'll die, okay? The functional unit of the kidney is the nephron, whose job it is to filter your blood and to put the critical stuff from that filtrate back into the blood and to get rid of the waste products. For chronic kidney disease, dietary recommendations are to control blood sugar and blood pressure. So lower sodium, because that, again, pulls water into the body, all right? Slow down the progression of any disease in the kidney that's pre-existing. Preserve remaining kidney function. Phosphorus and protein intake is going to slow the progression of chronic kidney disease. Limit high phosphorus foods to a serving or less per day. Meat for men, 5 to 6 ounces a day. For women, about 4 ounces. Half a cup of dairy. Too little protein results in the breakdown of body protein. So we have to be very careful not to overload the kidney, right? But not to run the risk of breaking down our own body protein. And then we want to restrict potassium to prevent hyperkalemia, okay? End-stage kidney disease, this is for clients that are on dialysis, okay? In practice, since dialysis clients are seen regularly, the topics are addressed and lab values and the clinical condition of the client are a matter of record. Considerations include sodium and fluid management, adequate protein and calorie intake, potassium and phosphorus management, and monitoring for vitamin D deficiency, okay? The dialysis is taking the place of the kidney itself, right? You can see an example of a dialysis machine in this lower panel. And you have to go 3 to 4 times a week, and it lasts between 4 and 8 hours a session, okay? So this is a life-changing event. And the only cure for this is kidney transplant, okay? Acute kidney injury is generally reversible. Diet therapy for this condition depends on the phase and the underlying cause. Protein, calories, fluid, potassium, and sodium are individualized according to the phase. Potassium and sodium depend on what's in the urine and the lab values if they're on dialysis, okay? And if they're on dialysis. Protein intake is based on the patient receiving dialysis, and calcium requirements 2 grams per day if they're on dialysis, all right? So the idea here is this is usually something that will resolve, right? It'll heal and gradually recover kidney function, all right? That's why we say it's reversible. But remember that the kidney has to maintain electrolyte balance, has to maintain nitrogen balance, and so we have to be careful about how much nitrogen-containing materials in our diet, and that's mostly protein, okay? And we also have to be careful about the electrolyte intake. Nephrotic syndrome is increased excretion of protein in the urine. That usually means damage to the nephrons. Prolonged protein loss leads to protein malnutrition, anemia, and vitamin D deficiency. Diabetes and kidney damage are due to medications or chemicals or autoimmune disorders, and infections are risk factors. Okay, so again, all of these will hurt. The diabetes hurts the kidney because it puts extra pressure on the nephron, right? And it makes the kidney have to work harder to put sugar back into the blood, right? Trauma to the kidney from either a physical force or from meds, right? Autoimmune disorders, autoimmune diseases can attack the kidney. An example would be something like lupus, okay? And then kidney infections, right? Remember that the urinary system is open to the outside world, and it's possible for an infection to move from the urethra into the bladder, up the ureters, and into the kidney in extreme cases, right? So what are our goals? Minimize edema, replace the lost nutrients, and prevent protein malnutrition. So you want soy and low sodium intake. You want soy-based protein. Carbs are the majority of the calories. Limit trans fat and cholesterol, and have total fat be over 30% of the daily diet. Multivitamins replace loss of vitamins with protein excretion. Nephrolithiasis or kidney stones are the result of an increase in the concentration of calcium oxalate, okay? And this comes from things like caffeinated beverages. There are green leafy vegetables that are very high in oxalates, spinach and kale are a couple of examples, and the use of diuretics, caffeine and alcohol are examples of diuretics, okay? And that increases the risk for kidney stones, okay? The stone formation is influenced by the amount of oxalate in the body and calcium in the body, okay? So this can be dietary, but this can also be related to hormone problems as well, okay? And it could be a combination of the two. So what do? We limit the intake of animal protein, sodium, calcium, and foods with oxalates, which include spinach, rhubarb, beets, bran flakes, nuts, potato chips, tea, and chocolate. Increase fluid intake to 1.5 to 3 liters a day, and hit about 8 to 12 ounces of water at bedtime. You can go higher if you want, and there's no problem in taking in extra water, okay? limit foods with oxalates, drop potassium levels, avoid high doses of vitamin C because there's oxalate in that, and other preventative measures: reduce lean meat and organ meat consumption and reduce alcohol consumption, okay? And reduce the amount of whole grains and legumes that you take in, okay? The stone is very painful. It'll lodge in the ureter, it can lodge in the renal pelvis, and then it'll stop urine flow from the kidney to the bladder, and the result is radiating pain through the abdominal pelvic cavity and down in your inguinal region, your groin, all right? And it's pain that'll make you wish for death, okay? Easy way to avoid kidney stones on a day-to-day basis is drink lots of water, okay? Because that helps the stones to dissolve, keeps them from forming in the first place, and it also dilates the ureters so that any stones that are in there pass more easily into the bladder. And once we get to the bladder, we're usually out of trouble. Okay, cultural, religious, and ethnic influences, right? Vegetarian eating patterns are an example of this. Vegan excludes all meat and animal products. Lacto-vegetarian includes dairy, lacto-ovo, dairy and eggs, and plant-based material. Following the above diets gets all the nutrients you need, but you have to be careful to eat a wide variety of foods. So you have to talk about the amount of vitamin D, B12, and omega-3 fatty acids that are in these materials. So we want to include things like legumes, nuts, and soybeans because they're high in that stuff, okay? Other examples of cultural subgroups, right? African American, origins in the Caribbean, Central America, East and West Africa. Traditional foods: greens, cornbread, sweet potatoes, red and pinto beans, okra, pork, chicken, and ham, right? Food prep is frying and cooking with saturated oils and fats, and a family environment, okay? Health risks: type 2 diabetes, obesity, hypertension, metabolic syndrome, right? And that's because of the saturated fat. Encourage cooking with plant-based oils, introduce fruit and vegetable dishes, increase leafy greens, and do portion control, all right? So that's the big thing. This is also a problem in the Deep South, okay? Because this is common cuisine in the South, all right? And this is also why hypertension and obesity are more common in people that live in the South, all right? Not just African Americans, but everybody, because that's part of the culture that's down there as well, okay? And what makes the food taste so good is the fact that it is high in calories, okay? It's all that fat that attracts us because we're, again, evolutionarily selected to like things that are sweet and high in fat. And we talked about why that is. Asian American, Far East and Southeast Asia, India. Traditional foods: rice, noodles, fruits, land and sea veggies, fish, shellfish, pork, soy, eggs. Very little red meat, very little alcohol. Traditional food prep: fruits are peeled, they're stir fried, there's sweet and sour sauces for balance, spices, there's sodium, and there's cooking oil. Health risks: high sodium, increased cancer rate, and an increase in Western foods has sunk in, okay? A lot of what we think of as Chinese is not really Chinese. It's the American take on Chinese. Health: use plant-based diet and traditional food prep and moderate sodium intake and limit sugar-laden foods. Latin American, Mexico, Caribbean, Central and South America. What do you see? Rice, maize, that's corn, tortillas, tropical fruits, legumes, cheese, seafood, poultry, not too many sweets, and very little red meat. Food prep: frying and stewing in saturated fat. Meat is chopped and mixed with grains and vegetables or stuffed. Hot and cold food choices maintain balance. Common use of chilies and spices, and minimal sugar. The increased risk of diabetes comes from all the starch, okay? Health promotion: encourage boiling, braising, and baking, and the use of traditional corn tortillas, and encourage a plant-based diet, okay? Now, I've sent you these notes. They're available in the chat. I've also sent them by email, okay? I will post this review as soon as it processes. And remember that the exam is due by 11 o'clock tonight. Okay. It's twice the length of a normal exam, but you get twice the time. So you should be able to get through it. Make sure to take the practice final and check that against the practice key to see if you understand what you've studied. Okay. And if you have any questions, just shoot them to me. Okay. Remember, grades are due tomorrow morning. All right. So there can't be any delay in getting this done. And like I said, all your grades are in with the exception of your final exam and your attendance today. Okay. So does anybody have any questions before we bump out, or are we good to go? We cool? All right. Good luck.
Mr. Converse,
Yes.
this is Z.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I mean everybody else can log off. It's not that important, but okay, so since I didn't take, will my grade be bad since I didn't take that other exam?
Is it so? I made that exam available for you. You didn't take it?
I guess not. It's not on my bright space. That's why I was trying to when I was
It's
emailing
not in
you.
bright space. We're not in bright space. We're in here. Let me show you the website. All right. That's probably part of your problem is you did go into the wrong place. Okay. We're in Compass here. Let me show you. The website you have to go to, okay, is, all right, go up here, go to Beckfield, and we go to student portal, okay? This is where we are. We're in the student portal, okay? my.ata.edu. That's where everything.
Yes, I understand that.
Yeah.
But I took my second exam, but my first exam, I don't know if I did take it because you remember I don't know if I was supposed to be in your class or not.
Right.
So I just want to know if I didn't take it, would that affect my grade?
Yeah, I popped it for you so you could take it. Do you remember taking it?
Oh, but it don't have no grade in there, so I don't know.
Do you remember taking it?
I'm not for sure. I know I took a test for you, but I don't know which one it was. That's why I was asking.
Well, I will look and see if you have taken it. If you haven't taken it, I will pop it today, but you have to get it done today.
Okay? Correct. Okay.
All right. Okay.
When will our grades be up?
They got to be up by tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Okay. All right, y'all. Good luck.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.